Hello, Oscar. How are you?
Nice and good. How are you?
Yeah, everything's fine. It's a big honor to me and Jessica from Headbangers to have this opportunity to interview you.
Oh,
Let's start.
hi, Oscar. How are you?
How are you? Yes, let's start.
Yeah, let's start.
Yeah.
Um, Hammerfall has been around since the early 90s, a time when nobody gave a dime about heavy metal. But the band Hammerfall never gave up, never changed to other successful tendencies. And today, it's still standing on, touring, recording with a big fan base all over the world. What's the secret to keep rocking, recording, playing in a big festival and prevail after all these years, after all this change on the industry?
I think the most important thing is that you have a true passion for what you're doing. Because if you don't love what you're doing, if you're just trying to follow the trends or what you think will be popular, that's going to bite you in the ass every time after a while. What we did was just we were people who were a bit fed up with the current musical climate. We none of the bands, at least the new bands, were playing the type of music we wanted to listen to. So we decided to take it in our own matters in our own hands and do it ourselves. And this was based on a lifelong passion of heavy metal, and that's still to this day, 25, 30 almost years later, it still stands. So I think that is the most important thing, to love what you're actually doing, the
Exactly.
reasons you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Also because you have 25 years, and this is the album like the silver anniversary, And I
Yeah.
think that Hammer of Dawn is this silver anniversary album. Can you tell us what is like all the experiences, learnings that you already have in these past years? For example, we know that you broke your arm in the past, and now you participate in the live streaming of the Growth of the Lich King game. How do
Mhm.
you have all these learnings, these experiences until these 25 years with this new album in your personal and your music and your personal music life?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like you said, 25 years, that's a really long time. That's more than half my life. So I've dedicated my life to Haverfall, half my life to Haverfall basically at this point, because I turned 50 this year. So I that is what goes in, like life is what goes into the creation of the music for me. How I feel when I write the music, of course I've learned how to put myself in a position that I know that I'm comfortable here. Now I can probably write some good stuff. But as far as just writing new music or life shaping the sound of Hammerfall, it's always been that way. Because like I said before, the passion of the music comes from within, obviously. And when I create music, I don't really sit down and think, what can I play or whatever. I just pick up the guitar and let the fingers do it. And then, oh, this sounded good. Usually it's shit. It doesn't always come out good. But sometimes I feel like this was a really good riff or melody or whatever. Then I record that or save it or whatever. So I have it for future. And those melodies is nothing manufactured. They are just born out of, like I said, the passion for the music. And that's how it works usually. And that's life makes you, at least makes me, this is how I've learned over the years. Whatever happens in my life is how the music turns out.
Okay, very cool. The war stopped for the last 2 years for the COVID stuff, and the
Mm.
music industry was affected, as many others, obviously.
Yep.
What was the most difficult thing to Hammerfall in at that moment, and what was your strategy as a band, as a person, as a musician, in at that
Mm.
time to survive, to keep the faith, to still believing in what you're doing?
So we were a little bit fortunate. I mean, nothing was good with the pandemic, but we managed to end it's a big European tour at the end of February, and then 2 weeks later, basically the whole Europe shut down. So we didn't have to cancel that much in the beginning. We made the big tour and everything, which was great because we could survive off of that for a long time afterwards. And honestly, like the first summer, I was happy to be home because we were forced to be home. We couldn't go anywhere. No, all the shows were canceled, all the festivals were postponed. And I said, okay, I'm gonna be home with my family. an uninterrupted summer in Sweden. That's unheard. I've never had that, so that was great. I loved it.
Okay.
But
Yes.
once the summer started to go, like in September maybe, and it was time to think about like that. We really got to push for the last couple of songs for the album, because we had written songs already for that time. We were planning to record in early 22 anyway. So regardless of the pandemic, the Hammer of Dawn was going to come out when it came out anyway. That was our plan. So we were focusing on recording during last year, during 21. That was the whole plan. And then that was the hard part. Like coming into the studio where I am right now is where I wrote most of the stuff for my parts for the album. But it was really difficult to find inspiration. Like again, what I said earlier, life affects the music that you write. Like how I'm feeling as a person or as a human being affects the music, and it was really difficult to find any type of joy in writing songs, because especially at the end of September, maybe October even, things were looking good over the summer, like pandemic wise. It looked like, well, it's not getting worse right now, it's actually getting better for the first time in a couple of months. And then of course the second wave hit, boom, everything shut down again. And that was hard. I know I talked with Joachim a lot about this as well. He had the same problems I had, to find the inspiration, really. Because there was no fun. You had nothing to look forward to. You didn't know if it was going to last another 6 months or another year, 2 years. Who knew? But we still had to produce some music so we could record the album. But I was also lucky then, because I'm forward thinking a little bit nowadays. I never was in my youth. Never thought about anything coming up. Always today, whatever happens, and in the future we deal with that later. But I've last, let's say 5 years or so, I've been busy on the road. I've been writing music when we're on the road, or maybe when I'm on vacation even, whatever it is. I bring my stuff with me. All I need is a computer, a little sound card, and a guitar. I'm set to write stuff. And I found being on tour is very inspiring to write music. It's incredibly inspiring. I had no idea because I never tried before, but it was really, really cool. So I wrote, for example, Hammer of Dawn. The song is written in Germany at an off day in Ludwigsburg in Germany, because I know where it was, because I named the song, the like working title for the song was, sometimes it just is the city where I'm in when I start writing it, because I have no idea. So I called it Ludwigsburg, and that's why I remembered. But anyway, so that song is written on the road. And same goes for Brotherhood, actually. Brotherhood is written on the road a couple of years ago. That's a little older song, but that one is also finished on the road, because it's like meeting fans every day, seeing and hearing their excitement when you're on stage. That has helped me a lot. When I come back off stage, sometimes I feel like I got stuff to write, or maybe the next day or whatever, when we're in that zone anyway. And so that has helped me a lot. Venerate Me, on the other hand, was the last song I wrote from start to finish for this album. And that was written in that period of time when I was talking about, like October, maybe November of 2020, the dark period, so to speak, of this. And that was hard to write. I think it turned out great. I'm very happy with the result, but it took maybe 4 or 5 times longer than normal, because I didn't have any inspiration. I went in the studio, I just sat there like looking at stuff. Nothing is coming. I didn't want to do any music. I didn't want to write any music. But once I started playing, sometimes you just find an opening, and you found, okay, this riff is pretty good. And that riff sort of, it snowballed into the song in the end. That's how it happened. So it's both, night and day, actually, the songwriting for this album.
It's a matter of focus. Your focus is still concentrated to the objective.
Yeah, exactly.
And also because the audience, and when you are alive in the show, is your big inspiration as Hammerfall. So how can you tell to all the Latin American bands that also feel frustrated because of the pandemic situation, and also they try to survive in this musical business, trying to be themselves in their scene? How can you tell them, to all these Latin American new bands that are also influenced by Hammerfall and other bands like Helloween too, to survive in this musical scene? And because sometimes it's not always friendly, especially for metal music.
No, it's and nowadays the music industry or business is also very, very different from when I started. I mean, it was even like 25 years ago, it was quite different from what it was in the 80s as well, like the 70s and 80s. So in, let's say, 95 or 97, when Glory to the Brave came out, the business had already started to change. But the digital era is it makes everything a lot easier in one way, but it makes it a lot harder in many other ways for new artists. So it's, I don't know, I wouldn't want to be in their shoes. I feel lucky that we had that we had an environment which I understood. I think that probably is. I mean, people who grow up now they don't know what it was when what it was when I was young. So they grow up with this, and they're probably more in tune with the digital age in that way. And I'm talking about Spotify, for example, and those streaming services that we have. It's so great, it's so easy, so fantastic in a lot of ways. If only they would pay the artists enough money to live on, and divide everything up properly, it would be better. Because the record, like the income that any band gets from record sales nowadays is so offset by the so many streaming. I don't know how it is in South America actually, but in Europe, especially Sweden, most people do stream their albums, and that one stream, I don't know how many times you have to listen to an album for it to count the same as if you bought it on like a physical copy, or maybe even on iTunes, because that's the similar idea. You sort of buy a digital project, even though you don't get something in your hand. But the streaming is very difficult, because that is so heavily skewed towards the bigger labels and the bigger artists. So it's very, very difficult for a young band coming up now to sort of get a platform to focus 100% on the music. That's what I'm getting at now. And so I don't know if I have what kind of advice. Like, the only advice I always have is that play the music that you love. That's always been my go-to, because that's like, if you try to make it by any means necessary, I don't think you're going to have a fulfilled life. You're not going to be happy with yourself. If you play the type of music that you want to play, and whatever happens, fine. Then at least you stay true to yourself. And I think that's something that people. It's easy for me to sit here and say that, but that's exactly what we did. I didn't care about being famous or releasing albums. I cared about playing the music that I loved, and it just so happens that many more people love that type of music. And we were fortunate enough that I sit here now, 25 years later, and talking about it. So that's where I'm coming from in this direction. But again, with the modern digital age, you have to stand out somehow, and it's really difficult to stand out though, because everything has been done 10 times over already. So I don't know, just that's why I'm saying, stay true to yourself, write the music that you love to play, and whatever happens.
Yeah, great. Oscar, although it's not the first time you have played with Helloween, this tour created a very high expectations. We know that for you, it's a tour with a lot of fun, especially with Helloween, but many people call it the power metal tour, because many people just say that you and Helloween made power metal music. Do you agree with this term, power metal, to define?
I never have and never will. For Hammerfall, it's never been a matter of that for me. It's always because we came from a different background. Like when I formed the band, this power metal was never that. The only power metal that existed was the US power metal, like the bands like Jack Panzer or Omen, or Sabotage, maybe, stuff like that, which is very different from what we're doing. So our influences are from the heavy metal of the 80s, mostly European, but many American bands and British bands as well. And when we started, this goes way back to because when we began with Hammerfall, we did a couple of shows in the middle of the 90s where people, like, because we did the full thing, like with leather, studs, chains, melodies, everything that you see now, just more refined, basically. But we were this, so we did it, and you could see from the stage people were laughing at you, like, "What the hell are they doing? Don't they know that grunge or new metal or whatever was popular at that time? That's what everybody's playing." But again, it goes back to we didn't give a shit what everybody else was playing. We wanted to play the music we wanted to play. So I know that for us, heavy metal became a badge of honor. It wasn't just a name for the type of music. It became something that we were proud to belong to. And so when people started saying, "Oh, this is power metal," especially that's very prominent in the US, for example, US and UK, they're more into that than anywhere else. But it still exists in every country, of course. But it's predominantly over there. And so I in the interviews, I always make a point, like when you ask the question, I make a point of answering like this. But for a long time, I always kept writing stuff online and shit. I don't do that anymore now. It just takes too much energy from me. But so I make a point in the interviews that if people read the interviews, at least they know what's going on.
Yeah.
But so no, we never felt the power metal vibe. I know we were part of creating the genre, but I think Hammerfall is much more, it's wider, broader than I think what power metal is. That's basically what it is.
Okay, but thank you so much, Oscar, for your time. And also, well, this United Force is going to be first here in Latin America. And then because of the due problems, you have to change the dates. But if you want to say something for our audience in Latin America that is expected to this tour for United Force, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, yes, of course. What did you say? Or you changed the dates?
Well, you first was the tour on the Europe tour, and then because of the pandemic situation, you changed the dates, and now Latin America is the first one to see this tour.
Yeah, I misunderstood you. I thought there was some dates changed in No, this is it's going to be great. We actually have done a couple of shows with Helloween, maybe 6, I think, already. So we have just tasted it a little bit. And it's fantastic. I mean, Helloween it's such a great show when they play. I've seen it several times. You just finish your show, take a shower, maybe get something to eat, have a beer, and then go outside and watch the show. I've done that many times, and it's going to be a lot of times to be more on this tour, and because it goes on for a while. So it's a fantastic honor for us to play with Helloween. It's fun as a fan and as a musician. And I think Hammerfall and Helloween complement each other really well, because we bring something that they don't. I get in the terms of stage presence, and not stage presence, but stage and the energy on stage. Like we're all over the stage all the time. Like we're very energetic. They are too, but in a different way. They have more of a show with their the monitors and shit, like the whole thing. That what I'm not going to spoil it, but whatever they have, it's great. But this tour in particular in Latin America, it's more going to be Hammerfall. We're going to be on stage, and that's what you get, the backdrop and Hammerfall, basically. So we don't have a show kind of for you, but I'm sure Helloween will do that. So we will be the show, and that I think is the difference, because we're I don't know how much younger we are, but a little bit. I mean, it's a different generation anyway with Hammerfall. So I think we feel that's our thing. Hammerfall has always been a very energetic live band, and we still try to be that as much as we can. So if the people who come to the show are gonna, I think they're gonna get the heavy metal evening of their lifetime. I think I'm being honest when I say that. I think if you are a fan of both bands, this is going to be the best night of your life. Maybe bar the birth of your children and stuff like that, but your best, you know what I mean, the best musical night of your life. No.
Thank you so much for your time, Oscar.
Thank you very much.
No worries at all. Thanks for the interviews. Yeah, you too. Take care, guys. Yeah.
Let's see you soon.